Hello and welcome to Behind Clean Lines, an NGI podcast. Today we're once again focusing back on what's overhead in the production facilities. So that could be raceways, there could be all kinds of installations, production installations that is typically installed above the machinery. And with us again, we have Steve Voelzke from Robroy Industries in Texas, US. Are you with us again?
Yes, sir. I'm here bright in the morning, ready to go. So
perfect. In the last episode, we touched upon, well, quite a lot of things actually. We touched upon like a more holistic approach to the design, both of the facility, but also of the equipment. We talked about some of the, or we talked about the fact that sometimes overhead installations is some sort of an afterthought. And I think where we're going to start today is from a more practical perspective. We're going to look into more what can companies do, what are they already doing, and how can we, of course, educate both workers, construction workers, and designers, all those kind of people on this topic. I think, Steve, just to begin with, what do you see right now companies are already doing when we're talking overhead installations or production installations?
Yeah, I think the cleanest environments that I go into today are those that really design that building envelope inside of the building for their production areas, and they really take advantage of that space above with an interstitial space. And to do a lot of the infrastructure up there, so all their horizontal runs and that kind of stuff are above the ceiling. And then they go straight down with either conduit or basket trays straight down into the environment. And that seems to solve a lot of issues, right? It makes it a little bit simpler. There is some expense, obviously, that to do that, but from a cleanliness standpoint, it's probably one of the better designs that I see out there. And so I think that's one of the things that people are doing in new facilities. Excuse me. And then the other thing is just more education. A lot of times it's not the designs or the things that are done up front. It's usually the things that are done that weren't planned, or the things that the part of the project that wasn't planned that ends up basically being the area that, oh man, that just didn't work out the way that we wanted it to. And so I think that we all have to realize that there is a little bit of a journey to this, right? It's been an evolution from where we have been 10 years ago even. But it continues to get better. New design, we're really doing after action reviews. We're actually consistently getting better, I think, throughout the process. And I think that's even now extending itself to working together for the long term. It's not just about this one project. It's about, what's the new facility look like, but then what's the next one? What are we going to take from this project to the next one? And I think that's working together a little bit more to understand what we're trying to accomplish.
And you say that it has developed. Is that development over the last 50 years, or is it rapidly over the last, let's say, decade or something?
Yeah. In the U.S., I would say that there was the Food Modernization Act that happened to us over 20 years ago now.
Okay.
That was an accelerator, right? That really pushed for this, how can we do better with our food supply? And in the US, I think it's 1 in 6 people get sick, every year. About 3,000 people die of food related issues, in regards to contamination. That has consistently gotten better. Food recalls have consistently gotten better. Due to turnover and the things that we're dealing with today, we actually took a little bit of a step down over the last couple of years, and that's mainly because I think the turnover that we talked about in the last podcast, the turnover in the industry, not only the construction industry that builds the facilities, but also the facilities that we have. And so I think the next step that we need to take is, how do we evolve to the next level where we're making it easier? We have to make it easier to clean. We have to make it easier to install correctly. And then we have to also give what's the impact of an in-crash installation. So when when we have gone to the marketplace to try to help them get their job completed, it's about training. We do a certification program in our product category, and part of that certification is I'm not trying to teach an electrician how to install products. He knows how to do that. But there are certain considerations when you're in a food environment that aren't normal for an environment where washdown doesn't have to happen, or where food contamination is a challenge. And so just making people aware that there's a different approach to take, and a few things that you need to do a little bit different, that's a huge piece of it. But you got to do that, because of turnover and because of the things that are happening. You got to make sure that you're diligent about doing that at time of construction. Right. And then the other thing that we've done that's really worked well is we've worked with clients where we've done periodic audits during construction. And it's not to point out what you're doing wrong. It's to say, hey, do it like this instead of like this, and catching it before there's this huge infrastructure already in place. How can we catch it before it happens, right? Train, go back and look, maybe 2 weeks later or a month later and say, hey, do this, but not this.
I'm even thinking catch it before production begins.
Yeah, it's during the construction phase. If we can catch it there and we can continue to improve that, it's done two things for our company. One, it's helped our customer accomplish what they need to accomplish, but it's also allowed us to see, hey, we have to make that easier to install, or hey, we have to solve that problem because somebody installs it differently than what we thought.
So you actually also get something out of it in return, not only educating the construction workers setting up the plant, but also taking with you back learnings that, this is maybe not as brilliant as we thought it was, or
Well, it's because sometimes if you design in a vacuum, right, you're going to miss the real practical application of something. And I think, we have one particular client that we've worked with for the last 3 years, and we meet every month for sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes a half hour, an hour, with the capital projects team, and it's a standing meeting. And with that meeting, we've been able to, it's really become an initiative, right? Sometimes they have lots of projects going on and we're talking about the different projects. And sometimes we're just having a collaboration to say, hey, this is what's going on in this plant. This is some things that we caught on a bill of material that was sent into us. And that elevation of just putting attention on this part of the process continually makes them evolve in this area. And so it's a two-way street. I think it's just opening up that communication, making sure there's a value proposition that we're creating. Because our customers don't really care about conduit and fittings and the things that we provide, but what they really care about is a more reliable and a more cleanable facility. And if we can provide that based on understanding their world a little bit more, I think we all do a little bit better. So my encouragement is, we all have this project or this initiative or this outcome that we're looking for. If we align on that, I think we make better solutions.
And do you think, is it for all suppliers like you are? Is it for all sub-vendor suppliers to take on that role of trying to educate the main company, or what's the name of that? I don't know, but you know what I mean? But the project company.
It's not normal, right? It really depends on the type of focus a company has. We like niche markets. We like to solve problems that haven't been solved before. And so when we take a look at something, we want to change and accomplish what our customers are trying to accomplish. We're not trying to be big. We're trying to be really good. And to me, that's a lot more fun, right? Because it's, you can build a generic product for a general market, but this is a specific application and a specific target. And our company loves to do that kind of thing. We're very niche oriented. So I think it takes a certain type of company, but the market's a sizable market. It's a lot of people that are in the food and bev market. This is their vertical market. So I don't think it's as too special that it basically nobody should do it. But I think anybody that's playing in this market has, an obligation, I think, to design and build better products that help the customer solve what they're trying to solve.
Yeah. Well, I agree.
And
Absolutely.
And Mikkel, it takes getting dirty. You have to go out, I mean, myself personally, I'm president of Robroy Industries, but I love our customers. So guess what? I'm climbing around on equipment, looking at what can we do to make things better. But that's part of the joy of accomplishing something bigger and broader than just providing equipment.
Yeah. Just before our time is flying, so I just want to kind of recap. Maybe I don't know if it's a recap, but I want to see if we can come down to some practical approaches. What steps would you recommend OEMs take to kind of push this agenda in their own design, in their equipment? What steps to make things easier to install, easier to clean? Do you have anything?
Right. Yeah, I think that, instead of just the equipment design, you got to take your equipment design all the way to the practical running, right? And so that means installed is the overall system that I install. Is it hygienically sound? Is it reliable? Is there anything that the sanitation department is going to do different that I'm not even thinking about? Go watch it be sanitized and say, oh, they're putting a bag over that because that's a problem. Well, guess what? Is that being sanitized then? And so my encouragement is really look at it in operation. My encouragement to people that provide is if there's an installer, make sure that they're not thwarting your design practices, right, by doing an installation different. And then I think that you have to be serious about education of not all the way to the construction. And then I think it's an evolution. So don't think you're going to get there day one, but and don't think you can just make this one initiative. Keep it going, get feedback, and I think that if you focus on the fact that our clients want a more reliable, safer system, we did a study before we even started, and there were two things. Our customers needed more reliability, and they were number one concern was contamination. It's it costs $10 million at a minimum for a feed recall in the U.S. And that doesn't include brand issues or anything like that. So,
which is also very significant.
It's significant, and that's not even the legal. I mean, that's just like, let's get that stuff back out of the marketplace.
Yeah,
and by the way, it's not even any cheaper. So realizing everybody has a piece of that, and realize everybody has a contribution to that, I think getting everybody on the same page is probably the most important thing. And then learning from every single installation, every single production facility that you build or modify. For that, for that matter.
Yeah, because we haven't talked about that, and maybe we have just a short minute to touch upon it. What if you mentioned these double walling, and you have ceilings that are hollow, so you have all your channels inside there. What if you are retrofitting?
Yeah, I think that's the issue of design as well, right? So if we can design systems that have the ability to expand or to be changed, without cutting and drilling and modifying to the point where you wouldn't want to do that in your production facility. If we can design better, where we can make it easier for that to happen, easier for additions to happen without having to risk physical contamination, then that's one element of it. And then the other element, is we just have to, again, train people to realize that there's bigger risk here, and it's not a normal construction environment. It's something that is different, and there's risk here that we should make sure that we're dealing with.
Yeah, so it's education on all levels. Basically, it's not just all levels within the brand owner or final organization, but also the construction workers building the plant. It's the entire supply chain of equipment providers, and then of course comes all the operational staff. So we have cleaners, but also
Well, and Mikkel, we've been fortunate because even the contractors, everybody that we've worked with have been, we've learned just as much from them as they have from us, right? So if we can continue to work together to take care of the last 10% that we got to fix, then we're seeing some great stuff and learning a lot and actually building a better product. So again, it's about a more cleaner and a more reliable system. Then we got all things going for us.
I think let those be the last words. Steve Voelzke from Robroy, thank you so much for joining. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, you too.
And to the listeners out there, if you like this episode, share it with your friends or colleagues, and maybe they can learn something as well. I did today. If you have any questions or if you have topics that you want us to bring up on this podcast, do reach out to us on podcast@ngi-global.com. And that was podcast@ngi-global.com. It's a little bit tricky to say, but I got it. And of course, give it a like or give it a share. Give it a review if you want. And I'm sure that inside of that Spotify or Apple podcast that you are listening from, you can also comment directly in there. So feel free to do that. It'll be always nice to hear from you out there listening. I think that's it for today. And all there's to say is just thank you so much for listening.